Everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing Live Show number 217 with me. And with me is the handsome, dashing, debonair, well-groomed, new, freshly haircut and minted Edward StOnge with flip two.
Wow.
Yeah. With his UCF shirt. How can you not be without a UCF shirt?
That's right. Game day, baby. We played tonight.
We were just talking before we actually turned this thing live on the demise of Thomas Cook and the ripple effect of it happening. One of our articles today is the fact that there are hundreds of hotels in Spain that are being said that they're going to be closing. And that's probably just the tip of an iceberg when it comes to the dramatic effect of it just shutting its doors. I mean, you're talking
closing about or likely to be purchased by Blackstone.
Yeah, they'll probably just try to. Blackstone will probably just walk in and go, how much for the whole place? And might I say, an opportunity potentially for Oyo. Oh yeah, because they could walk in, slide their stack in, and go, okay, let's slap a sign on this thing, and if we get the whole distribution availability thing going on, let's just start shoveling people through.
They bought the Hooters Casino in Vegas, so. And speaking of Hooters, Tim Cook is joining us.
I don't know if that's a proper segue for Mr. Tim Peter. Speaking of Hooters, here we are, Mr. Tim Peter.
I don't even know what to do with that one.
Beautiful timing.
I mean, wow.
Beautiful timing.
I guess we could have been on worse subjects at the time when you popped in and tried to put those two together. But
I would have been here a moment or two earlier. However, since this is October and we're heading towards Halloween, I have a tale of horror for you all. Oh. Literally moments before I was about to come onto the show, a spider the size of my hand was walking across the floor of my office.
So is it a Donald Trump hand spider or a regular human hand spider? Because I need to know how frightening this is.
I'm not afraid of spiders. I actually welcome spiders in the general sense, because they kill things that actually carry disease and things along those lines. And also, oh my God, you should have seen the size of this spider.
Was it a wood spider?
I don't know, man. Brown, about that big around.
Oh man.
Oh, it was definitely creepy.
And I hit it. Spider.
And I hit it with my shoe.
And it pushed back.
And it pushed back. I'm serious. Like the dude was looking around like,
hey, what was that?
What? Bring it.
You talking to me?
I'm walking through here.
Exactly.
Hey,
exactly.
It was a Jersey spider.
It was a Jersey spider, exactly. Jersey spider's like, what, that all you got? Come on.
I'm walking here.
So
wow.
Hopefully it is actually dead in the trash can and not going to come crawling back up later. If I suddenly vanish in the middle of the show,
if we see it crawling on you, we are not going to tell you. We're just going to be like,
if you see it crawling on me, first of all, I can see myself on the video.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Secondly, I say this with no disrespect to anyone whatsoever, but I will likely screech like a little girl and go running from my house down the street. And I'm not even afraid of spiders. I just
it's funny when we find them in the condo every once in a while, and he's like, kill him. Like, no, and then you got to get the whole cup and the paper thing, sure. And we have those little lizards down here.
Yeah.
And it's so funny to see people that aren't used to them, like, lizard, and like, no, that's cool. That's great. They're killing bugs, man. That's all good.
They're killing bugs, and they don't hurt when they bite you, unlike spiders.
Yeah,
that's
right?
true.
Yeah.
When I went to Vietnam years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I was staying at the...
By the way, Tim, the correct way to always say that is back in Nam. I'm just saying.
That would be Robert. I'm not that old.
It adds.
That's true, right? Yeah.
It adds
Robert gets to
the
say
conversation.
Yeah, but so back in Nam, I was at. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the hotel where Westmoreland always used to hold the press conferences in Saigon, in Ho Chi Minh City. Anyway. I'm laying in bed one night in my hotel room, and there was a lizard on the ceiling right above me, and I was like, Okay,
Were
I
you
get what
frozen?
I wasn't frozen, but I was definitely like, I don't know how cool about this I feel. Like I'm supposed to be sleeping right now, and I'm not entirely comfortable just closing my eyes and going to sleep now.
Oh yeah, that's never good fun stuff. Hotels, yeah. And there have been hotels where they've had extracurricular critters in your room that I've had the pleasure of being engaged with.
Scorpions.
No,
scorpions! Yeah.
I've had the lovely pleasure in Costa Rica of having scorpions in my room, and that
scorpions are nasty. That is a legitimate.
That wouldn't be a fun thing. That's not
especially if you were traveling with your kids.
I wasn't. No.
Oh, well, that's
take
good.
Children. You don't take children to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Well, my all-time favorite story about this whatsoever was an economy property. This is about 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago. The brand in question received a complaint because the guest had gone to the front desk to complain about the fact that they had spotted a mouse in their room, and the front desk person reached behind the desk and handed over a cat.
No. That's amazing.
They're like, oh yes, here you go. Here's how you handle that. And they were like, no.
Amazing. I would have been like, correct. You have handled that correctly.
Nature's little catcher. Come on.
I'm not aware if they were ever able to independently validate the story, but it was it was a legitimate complaint received from a guest.
That's amazing.
Probably my favorite story of a complaint from a guest ever.
Yeah.
Wow, that's it. Yeah, unfortunately, there are.
Speaking of people who have caused guest complaints,
I apparently Tim was telling some story about what happened last week at the Arizona Biltmore. I don't know. What did I do?
That is one place I doubt you will find that happening. I doubt that.
And he complained, and they handed him a cat.
Guest complained about a mouse, and the front desk gave them a cat.
Okay.
How is the Biltmore looking?
Actually, when I lived in New York back in the mid '80s, I believe that was one of the solutions that I don't know if it was Koch who was the mayor back then, decided for the rat problem in Grand Central Station to get cats, which are a much bigger problem than rats.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, the size of the rats require a sizable cat.
Yeah, you're talking mountain lions at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's only 50-50, you're right.
Right.
Exactly. You need a
that'll be a whole new betting circuit, I bet. Hey, so how's the Biltmore look under reno? How's it doing?
It's coming along. They still have work to do. The property, as always, is lovely. The service was very good. Obviously, the architecture is spectacular. I think the areas that are complete look good. They're still, at least from what I saw, it looks like they're probably only about 40% of the way through. I mean, there's a lot of work still being done. Yeah. I mean, Robert, maybe you have a different take, but
No, probably. Yeah, the areas that were done look nice, though.
Yeah.
It is one of the more stunning places to wake up to. It's just the sunrise and stuff like it's unbelievable.
Oh yeah, without question. And beautiful rooms, and I love the copper tinged ceilings that they have.
Yeah.
Does Blackstone still own that, or have they moved on?
Blackstone still owns it.
Yeah. And the acquisition, the original development, I think was 38 cents an acre, which now it's
13. Yeah.
Oh, did you go on the tour?
We did not. We had a meeting meeting at that point. Although the tour did come by and look at us and kind of point.
and
the mystery room.
A historian for the property came and gave a little presentation.
Gentleman or girl?
Gentleman.
Nice guy, real nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice guy.
They have two descents right now. And both of them are sweet. But he's a really nice guy. He did a great job when he walked us around. So
yeah, cool. I used to live in Phoenix. My favorite story about that area of Phoenix is that it was actually a World War II prisoner of war camp in Phoenix back in the 40s. And they would truck captured soldiers and sailors and things like that. Not very many of them, but they would send them by train across
to the Biltmore. or this was somewhere else?
To the desert.
Oh.
This is just.
I thought you were saying to the Biltmore.
But you have to remember where the Biltmore was,
in the middle of
Biltmore opened,
was
outside
way
of
out
town.
Yeah.
Way outside of town, and now it's like the heart of downtown Phoenix.
Yeah.
At any rate,
this would be like Westchester or something in New York City. Yeah, it'd be like
right.
It was out of ways.
and now it's 42nd Street in Times Square.
Right.
But the story goes that they'd captured a group of sailors off the coast of Nova Scotia, some mariners, and they sent them out by train to Arizona, and they escaped, or some subset of this crew escaped, and for 4 or 5 days they wandered around the desert until they showed back up at the camp going, "We're tired, we're hot, we're hungry, we're thirsty. Can we come back?" Because there was nowhere to go, right?
Yep. In the days before air conditioning, the POW camp was better than living generally in Arizona.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, there was always, just recently there was a point in the news. It was kind of like a trivia thing. A gentleman that was a POW, and I don't think it was in the Phoenix area. I think it was in the Northwest that this happened. Escaped and was never recovered. And he lived his life. He became he remodeled himself and changed his identity and somehow created citizenship for himself and what have you, and lived here until he passed. And then it was discovered he was the guy that they never captured again. He escaped a POW camp and became a U.S. citizen and lived his life, and nobody knew who he was.
The father of D.B. Cooper. Excellent.
I was going to say, that's how D.B. Cooper ended.
Yeah. Hey,
I've got it right here, by the way. It's Papago Camp, Camp Papago near Phoenix, Arizona, Camp Papago Park. It looks like the story about them turning themselves in is mostly apocryphal. They escaped on December 23rd, and then the last of them was the captain of the U-boat, who was captured on January 28th. They made a shelter out of a cave in the mountains north of Phoenix. But basically, they escaped and just hung around town because there was nowhere to go.
Yeah, what are you going to
do? Speaking of changes, Tempe, when we was just last there, that is a booming place. I mean, even in the 4 months I was not there, I came back after 4 months. I mean, there was 2 new buildings it looked like. It was like boom, 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 boom.
I tell this story. I tell this story all the time. I lived there for 8 years. We bought a house. Our first house we lived in Phoenix was at about as far northeast as you could go and still be within the city limits when we bought it. 5 years later, we moved 5 miles north of there, northeast of there, and we were in the middle of a thriving, bustling area. Where my in-laws live over in Peoria, Arizona, literally was just desert when we lived there 17 years ago. And today it's like you're in downtown Phoenix practically. It is amazing how much
they call that urban sprawl.
It is actually
not
urban.
Good.
No, it's definitely not.
No.
It is larger in land area than Los Angeles. And it is urban sprawl at its most pure, I guess, is the way I would call that. And I think they're going to have, I don't think people are aware of this. They're going to have some real problems with water probably within the next 50 years.
Oh, yeah.
And air pollution, actually. Urban sprawl causes massive contribution to air pollution.
So I used to drive into downtown Phoenix, and they get things called a temperature inversion, where you can actually see the band of smog because you're coming down from the foothills. You're not really in the mountains, but you're coming from the foothills into the actual valley. And because of something to do with the way heat rises and cold sinks and
cold air above
pushes
air.
Down on the warming air,
traps
and you can just see this brown band across the city skyline on the days that are like that. Which not good.
Hey, so early on, when Ed jumped on, we were talking about the unfortunate fallout of Thomas and the hotels that are closed.
Yeah.
And just
old Tommy Cook.
Oh, Tommy Cook.
Thomas Cook, I think, is what's going to wind up coming out of this.
His Ponzi scheme of collecting payment immediately from travelers prior to stay and not paying the hotel for upwards of 6 months after departure.
Yeah, it's funny that when you look back in retrospect, you're like, man, but they were so big, you just like that's what all you got to deal with is like you always got to fight Thomas Cook about getting paid, and you just never thought about the fact that maybe this was a lead into how this thing crumbled to nothing. You know,
Maybe this was a business model.
Well,
Yeah.
but I think the bigger problem is, it's a business model that ought to work conceptually. Like if you're paying your bills 6 months after you get paid, and you can't make a go of it, you're doing something very wrong. And usually the thing you're doing very wrong, and we saw this with Thomas Cook. I realize this is outside the hospitality industry, but we saw the exact same thing with Toys R Us. Is they were over leveraged.
Yeah.
If you get paid 6 months before you pay your bills and you can't service your debt payments, you have too much debt. I mean, that's you can't do, like, this could be a college accounting 101 case study of you ought to be able to manage that.
Introduction to the balance sheet.
right, exactly. They were simply over leveraged. They were wildly over leveraged.
Yes.
So, and I mean, it has to do. I mean, to bring this to more of a hospitality thing, we see this sometimes with hotels where, leveraged buyouts and things along those lines. They take on too much. Some group of we'll call them investors, but some group of financial engineers, come in with some plan. They pile on a whole bunch of debt and they look to flip it before the note comes due. And this time it didn't work. So that's my take on it.
In the words of our prestigious president, owe money to the bank, shame on you. Owe too much money to the bank, shame on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, but I guess in the strange way, just from perspective, is this opportunity that exists for these closing hotels. I guess do you give them advice saying you should have accumulated your data?
They have very, very few options. These places are out in the Canary Islands, things like that. I mean, there are not alternate sources of airlift, right? I mean, that's right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I agree that the is definitely concerned, but then there's always going to be
it's all the Balearic. It's all these Spanish resorts. There is no local business. There's no other. It was that was it. The resorts in Thailand, which haven't really come up, things like that, but they did a lot of long haul stuff too.
Because you don't mention financial problems when you're a money laundering business.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to jump on that.
There's entire destinations that won't speak up about the damage Thomas Cook did because they're still pumping through money. It's no problem.
I think the statute of limitations has probably ended. If I'm not on the show next week, it hasn't.
This is a new bingo card for you because you end up having to qualify that almost every show.
That's okay. That's okay. I know where the bodies are buried. No, when I was at Mark Travel, they had a policy. I mean, it's actually a good story. It came out very positively. When I was there, they used to prepay. Now, the opposite of Thomas Cook. I mean, Bill Lamacchia is a very ethical guy, gold standard sort of thing. They used to prepay all the hotels in Mexico in November for the entire first quarter. Right?
Wow. Super risky.
Is correct, right? And in some cases, if there were bad years, maybe they'd have to borrow and things like that to make this happen. Wow. And I kind of wandered in and went, why are you doing it? Oh, this is the only way we can get our rates and things like that. And I was like, I don't think so. And I mean, I was kind of threatened with my job that if they lost one deal with any hotel group by me going back going, hi guys, it doesn't say bank on the roof. I'm really sorry, but we will pay you regular terms and things like that. We'll pay you in advance of arrival, but we are not going to pay you for arriving business in February and March in November because it was a lot of zeros behind the sort of thing, right?
You messed up a lot of drug cartels P&L that year.
But anyway, no, we wound up making the changes. Everybody was cool with it, and they were under the delusion, I guess. Oh no, the Mexican hotels all need this to pay their holiday bonuses, and this is why it's like, who told you this?
Right,
I mean,
right.
did you check with it? And that was it. And it was, tens of millions of dollars of cash flow savings.
Sure.
I mean, it wasn't, but with that, you kind of go, oh my, let's figure out the worst time of the year from a cash flow perspective and pay out all the business for the peak period.
Yeah.
Just insane. But I mean, huge amounts of money involved in this stuff. And so you can see with the Thomas Cook thing, they were grossly over leveraged, but again, and a lot of it comes out of when you have your own aircraft. You have to be really efficient with how the logistics of how those things are handled. And if they're sitting around idle or something, that's bad. Or if you have blocks of, it's funny with a lot of hotels and a lot of OTAs kind of fail with us. They go, hey, we can get this really deep deal if we get a block of 10 rooms. Well, if the hotels are clever, what they do is say, oh no, here are the 10 rooms physically, not some sort of you just have 10 and it floats around wherever.
Right.
But all of a sudden, when it is 10 rooms physically, you got to be really good at playing Tetris to really maximize your return. Because you do, all of a sudden you're like, we need a 2-day length of stay on, Wednesday, Thursday, sort of thing.
Right.
What do you do then? And if you don't fill it, boom, that's not, one night a week is probably your profit margin, or a good chunk of it. 2 nights is you're underwater.
I want to go back to Lauren's question for a second, Lauren. You asked about some of these hotels. Are some of these hotels, going concerns on their own? Some probably are. I mean, there's about 500 hotels who seem to be negatively impacted by this, which is, by the way, terrible for the hotel's investors, terrible for the hotel's employees, terrible for the local economy. So some of these properties are probably, rescuable and viable as a going concern of their own accord.
The rest are going to end up WeWorks.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Ed. That's the funniest thing you've ever said on this show.
They're going to be WeWorks, and the valuation's going to go up to $98 billion.
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny. I saw a case study the other day where this hotel group was talking about how much business they'd driven into the market over the last couple of years and everything, over the last year rather. And in the course of the discussions with them, we came to understand about the fact that basically a whole host of new airlift routes were added. And we had to calmly and politely kind of talk them down from, your marketing seems to have done a good job of helping you gather your fair share of some of that business.
However, you were mostly just present to win.
But mostly you just happened to be harvesting new demand that was coming into the marketplace.
You've got the participation trophy. Congratulations.
Exactly. So, I mean, and that's really the problem that's going to exist for a lot of those 500 hotels is they are in places where Thomas Cook was the only regularly scheduled airlift into the market. And without offsetting airlift, those hotels are
and that airlift in many cases is incented.
Correct. It is subsidized.
In one particular case, I won't say the destination, but they were working with a major U.S. carrier, and we at Mark Travel were working aggressively with them to try to maintain like daily air service instead of cutting down to 3 or 4 days a week, which is a killer, right? In terms of people's scheduling flexibility, year-round flying, because we'll fly during the peaks, but we'll use those planes more efficiently somewhere else during off, because again, the airline's looking at it going, what's the best use of this equipment? And these guys wound up funding the fuel, waiving landing fees, and then there was cooperative marketing dollars for the routes and things like that. They were desperate because they're sitting there with all these hotels with their population working with them, all the workers going,
tourism is 30% of the local economy or something along those lines.
And they're like, well, if this stops, we lose this, we have unemployment And because there's no tour, what are we going to go do? Build,
Unemployment literally jumps up by 30%.
Oh yeah,
points.
just stair steps, right? So,
literally, I mean, it's.
And I've got to think Cook had a lot of deals like that where they were being subsidized, and and it's hard for somebody to just jump in.
A naive optimism. I think I mean, absolutely right. And I think there are going to be failures out of this, that there's just no recoverable case to this.
Like Cyprus.
But in some ways, I think also, even with the circumstances you're describing, and as much as they subsidized it, it was because it was the least painful thing. They now need to go to the next painful thing. How is it that they can find, it's not going to be easy for them, but if any economies right now could help with all this process, is at least we're in a world of economies where there are the Airbnbs of the world, and there is a distribution capability that didn't exist 10 years ago.
Oh, sure.
10 years ago, if you weren't in the catalog kind of thing or whatever. So there is some optimism. It doesn't mean that there's still just no fix to some of these ones.
No. Of course,
capability.
You need transportation,
but you need a way to get there. That's going to be until there is literally Airbnb. That's going to be a real problem for some of these folks.
Thomas plane was the best thing, but now it's going to be, heck, we got to find some Joe Blow that will fly a puddle jumper or something for all we need. Whatever, it's going to be something. Right. But I understand your point. But
and to fly it from. Yeah, London or Manchester or all of they didn't.
Which those airports
and that's the thing.
What?
All those charters were all over the place.
To fly to and from those airports, they're pretty expensive.
Yeah.
There may be a whole nother. We don't know what's going to fill this void. This is a huge hole that just got dug into economies.
I see opportunity.
Yeah. I think there's going to be some interesting, creative ways that people can come out of this.
But the other problem is a lot of that flying. We said that yes, the destination subsidizing it, but again, if the hotels are giving a deep discount on their rates, right, to get it to, and again, a lot of these things aren't sold as okay, we've got this floating rate. A lot of these things are locked in. A lot of them wind up really being the case where it's we need to get the package price down to 699 euros or something like that, because 702 doesn't work. The demand drops off.
Large air-conditioned buildings. I'm seeing server farms in the future of these destinations.
I saw.
Unfortunately, they already have too much heat. They don't make for a good heat sink. Is the problem? They can't get into the outdoors.
No, there's a better energy source. I saw this 20th anniversary movie, The Matrix. It had some very, very clever stories.
And that's a way to employ people too.
That's right.
At least
Lauren, I want to say, I absolutely want to say, I respect and in all sincerity, really appreciate your optimism. I think that there are probably some places that will find ways to take advantage of this and turn themselves into appealing destinations. I think that's absolutely true. I think we also have to look at the other side of it, is the fact that, they're going to have to think really long and hard about who do they need to partner with in terms of getting airlift to them. Because until they solve for the transport problem, making these viable tourism destinations is going to be a bit of a challenge. Doesn't mean it's unsolvable. It just means that is a thing that has to work out.
If they were subsidizing that heavily, you do have to ask the question of, does it make sense to just develop your own national airline?
Correct. Exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Bahamas,
but in some cases,
there's
737
access
too.
Yeah. So when we do the 5,000th episode of this show 10 years from now, we may be talking about one of these destinations, and oh my gosh, can you imagine all the great things that they've done? There is going to be very real short-term pain. The next year or two, in all likelihood, is going to be pretty rough for some of these destinations until, unless they can work out something very, very, very quickly. I almost think in some ways
places were held hostage by Thomas Cook.
I think that's true.
Absolutely.
They had to create their environment based on the circumstances, that they couldn't go out from find alternatives. Even though there may have been better alternatives, they had to pass on them, because if they did, they were basically biting the hand that was feeding them. And
sure.
I'm sure there's lots of these stories that are going to start coming up of things that are like, oh, thank God this was the best thing that ever happened to us, to, oh my God, we just totally lost our entire business and economy.
For sure.
And those negotiations are tough negotiations, because it normally comes in as, hey, we're renewing the contract at the terms from last year or something. If that's the easy entry,
Right.
And it's like, oh, no, we were hoping for a rate increase because, hey, we did all these renovations. Oh, yeah, the place looks great, but no, sorry. And then they go, oh, yeah, but we really need it. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, that's fine. So we'll just take our block of business. These guys across the street who also did a renovation to keep up with you, we'll just move it over there. It's not really a problem. So Doug didn't want to offend you, and yeah, we'll be good. No harm, no foul. And then it's like, wait, don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, and
welcome
I would equate
to
it
pleasant holidays in Hawaii in the 1970s or 80s.
Right. But I would also equate
Because they
to
have
many
the
hotels with OTAs today, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I
Same
think there are some lessons to learn here about here's what happens if you're dependent upon, a single source of your business for too much of your business. You can be creating a problem where if something changes, you're in real trouble. And it doesn't mean that, Expedia is going to go out of business or Booking.com is going to go out of business. It means, they change their ranking model and you lose placement or you end up on page 2 or something along those lines. So I think there are some very real lessons for a lot of hoteliers to learn from this in terms of how much do we want to be dependent on any one source of business for where our revenue comes from.
Well, absolutely. And the challenge is that, and OTAs are a bigger challenge for the hoteliers than even the wholesale tour operator model, right? Because they vertically integrated the wholesale and retail components, right? So they went, oh, wait, the wholesaler gets 10%, the retailer gets 10%. We could just get 20, right?
Yeah.
And they expanded. But when you do that, all of a sudden, you used to at least have retail travel agencies who are booking for a wholesaler, and you go, well, let's see if we can get that business from somewhere else, right? And it'll go over here. All of a sudden, you don't have relationships with those retailers. You got nothing, right?
So what we're talking about Lyft and so forth, I mentioned this to Ed yesterday. I was getting a demo of a platform called Time Design based out of Japan, and it puts in a flight component into your hotel booking funnel. And what makes it unique about it is that it actually does opaque packaging with your hotel rates compared to just flip to it. What do you think? I mean, I'll give you a link. It's actually running on the Marina Sands out of Singapore right now. I'll put the link in. You'll see in the box
What's
below.
It called?
Time Design.
Don't even try Googling it. There's so many things called Time Design.
On the site, you'll see it. It's the widget box that's not on the top nav bar. It's in the
room
mid
and
bar.
flight.
Yep. Yeah. And there's still some questions I have that they're going to come back to me about, like how do they handle the membership for loyalty programs for their Lyft and so forth. Because it's not that the price may be that much different, in as much as I do want to get rewarded for the points I would be getting by using the Lyft. Right. And are you not having that functionality or not functionality? There's some things like that. Plus it's very cluttery and busy, and there's lots of stuff to it. But they supposedly have over 2,200 hotels and over 600 carriers right now.
So Robert used to work for a company
they're
called
doing scheduled air.
Yeah.
That's dynamic packaging, Lauren.
Yeah.
And we got the patent on that the patent didn't come through until like 2004. But
wait a minute,
we filed the patent in 2000.
Wait, is this past statute of limitations?
Yeah. It's that patent
who holds the assets to that any longer.
That patent is now owned by Expedia.
Yeah, but no, what are you feeling about? Does this put in kind of an equal equation to it? The pricing model is at a 12% commission, but they cover the credit card charges, so it's like 9 or 10% if you want to work it out that way. I don't know. Another question he didn't have answerable for me is: am I paying commission on the entire package or just the hotel component of it?
They did not have an answer for that. They did not have an answer for that. Yes.
So that means you're paying.
I was talking to a middleman, so I wasn't talking to them direct. I was talking to a middleman.
Got it.
So
middleman no.
I was a customer of Neat Group. Actually, Robert was one of my account people. Not my account people. He was several layers up, but Robert was over the account.
There weren't that many layers. We aggregated 25,000 hotels with 1.5 full-time equivalents. So,
yeah. It was
very efficient.
Speaking as a hotel company, it was a nice little extra revenue stream. I mean, it was a decent sum of money. We never found it to be material, largely because usually by the time, and I want to be fair, think about the brands I was working for at the time. So there's definitely a thing there. But usually by the time that folks were choosing their hotel, they'd already figured out their air, right?
Absolutely.
So we didn't find that we sold a lot. I know Avis Budget Group used it at the same time. They did okay with it, but they had a similar problem. It was nice. Don't get me wrong. It was nice extra revenue.
Yeah.
We had no
Tim, I'm
complaints
going to have to
about it.
say, though, that's a marketing problem.
Oh, it's absolutely a marketing problem.
It depends on
it
depends on the
because
accounts,
people
too.
want to figure out their error first. I mean, that means people weren't aware that they could come to you to figure it all out.
Oh,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. But I also want to point out that, we had, and I want to be really clear here. You are 100% right. When you are a franchisor of Ramadas and a franchisor of Days Inn and a franchisor of Super 8, it is a very difficult and nigh impossible conversation to have with your franchisees while you're advertising people should come here for air and, in addition to the hotel. So you're not wrong at all. But it was, plus we were competing with, United and Apple Vacations and folks like that.
Well, but
United
was Meet Group was handling United, it was handling Marriott, it was handling Orbitz, right?
Yeah.
But and the reason, quite frankly, we sold to Sendant was that they owned Budget and Avis Rent a Car, and they had all these and all the distribution, so it made sense to get all of those, kind of those internal sources. Although the leadership did change Neat's business model, which killed the viability of that for their for all the organizations. And the big win would have been the destinations as well. We thought the destinations would be the huge winner, because if you're the government of Barbados, it doesn't matter, or the Barbados Tourist Board, you have a zero margin requirement, right? All you want is people to come to your place. So all of a sudden you wind up with that 20% commission. Okay, maybe you have to pay a retailer or something, but you've got at least 10% of everything coming to your country. Available. And you're employing people, and you can afford marketing. All of a sudden, you can do some pretty freaking amazing things. The other thing on the business model, which has vanished sadly, is that if a hotelier had a discount, or an airline, whatever, that translated into consumer value, right? It made it through the system without getting absorbed by the intermediary who goes, "Wow, 50% off in the hotel, and you're in Times Square in New York, and these dates." You don't need to be that low, because we'll just bundle this together and say save $200 on the 7-day stay, and we'll keep the change. It kind of is. How do we post that? Gratuity? I don't know.
The reason why I put this in here was because one of their claims to fame was, because it's an APAC, they have all of the minor carriers in their listings. So there's a lot of hopping that can go on and so forth. And in light of what we're talking about, this kind of opportunity possibility of saying, looking and going, wow, I'm up by myself here, but maybe there's other variations and combinations of travel opportunities, given I can now offer that as a part of my exposure marketing wise of my product to what I hadn't to worry about before. Thomas fed me. Now I need to feed myself. I need to make sure I can answer some questions like, how the hell did you get to me?
In this specific case, though, I mean, and I love your optimism for this. I think you're absolutely right. One of the things people forget about Asia Pacific is Asia Pacific is an air market, right? There's almost nowhere you go in Asia Pacific if you're going from one place to another that A, it is not international travel, and B, it is not a flight, right? Vietnam is not a drive market.
No.
Australia is not a drive market, right? It's just the Hong Kong, not a drive market. Just not the nature of travel there. So there is a lot of airlift between those places. For properties in those kinds of situations, that could be great. Going back to the Thomas Cook one for a moment, for many of the destinations that are the most impacted by this, Thomas Cook was 80% of the airlift into those markets. So even if you add this to your website, sure, you could book a flight. There aren't flights to book, right? That's the problem, right?
Yep.
So
I agree with you. But like I said, with the water will fill a void. I think those other ones that may have been suppressed, displaced, or just given the opportunity, or as you said, there might be a self-adoption that says, well, it's time for us to dust ourselves off, pick ourselves up, buy a freaking airplane. Or
Yeah.
right, exactly.
I'm sure there's some 737 Maxes that are going for a better discount these days. So
Ooh,
So
too soon.
Dude.
So, that's another problem though. You've got all those Thomas Cook planes that have all been impounded by the lenders, right? So we want our planes back. That's those are collateralized, so they aren't going anywhere.
What are you talking about?
Collateral.
You're going to hit the market.
Yeah, but they're still under litigation. You've got the other, the other creditors. Thomas going, wait a second, give us the plane or something or give us the asset. We'll do something with the lease and do whatever, right? They'll restructure. So
there could be a whole branch of the people. There might be a whole adoption of the air carrier service that they had and go as a separate entity. There might be lots of things.
Yeah, they could split it up, sell it off for parts. Absolutely, that's a possibility. Though to be fair, if there's one thing Europe does not need another of right now, it is an overcapitalized regional carrier.
No,
right?
Because that's.
I'm amazed. Whenever I get
actually one of the bigger problems they have in air travel.
The diversity of the planes that are at the airports, when you start going through, especially Germany and stuff like that, the hubs that are there, you're looking. It's like I don't recognize any of these planes.
Well, no. Actually, you're correct. But the really, really fascinating part to watch is not the diversity of airlines. It's the fact that 6 months later, it's a whole nother set.
Another group.
It's the fact that the ones that you saw 6 months ago no longer exist, and there's a whole new set. Who probably bought those planes out of bankruptcy?
Just look at Norwegian. Norwegian started off doing really low cost carrier stuff over.
Hold on, Robert. Go ahead, Ed.
There isn't a monopoly in Europe like there is in North America, where you only have
that would
one
be an oligopoly. Yeah, an oligopoly.
Yeah, no.
No.
Hey, by the way,
I think we could use something in between that here, because right now the Lyft situation in the United States is amazing how it hasn't been broken up.
It's been divvied up intentionally.
Nonstop origin up, I think is the right
nonstop origin destinations have basically been kind of reallocated. And let me tell you, in Dallas, the way American Airlines is managing their revenue management, I think they could cut out a huge portion of their team. And all they do is they look for basic economy. They track Spirit. Like if you're looking whatever Dallas, Chicago, or something, all they do is look at Spirit and go, okay, we'll match that. And then for the main cabin, they go, oh, well, there's what Southwest is doing. Okay. And then at some point they diverge maybe. But
so I have a question. I never fly American. I have heard from 4 different and disparate people, folks who don't know one another over the last month or so, who all they talk about is what a nightmare American has become. How bad American is. I'm very much in the carved up part of the world where we only have United really as an option. So I don't know.
So you're completely satisfied with your
I get it. I have to tell you, as easy as it is to troll United or to I was going to say beat them up, but that seems a little on the nose. They've gotten better.
Your guitar behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
They've come to sell tickets and kick ass.
And we're out of tickets. No, but United has improved noticeably over the last 6 to 9 months. They
got a bit of a black eye.
Their share price was dragged down. Yes.
Compared to where they were a year ago, I've been very pleased with United lately.
They're certainly punching above their weight.
Why'd we drag Ed into this? No.
Oh my God. I want to be fair. I wouldn't say that it's a knockout, yet. They certainly.
All right. Well, Tim, last word on that one.
You can see sweat. He just mentions the words United, and beads of sweat appear on the guitar.
I fly United all the time, and I've always appreciated their app. I thought their app was much better.
Yeah, their app's really good
at the time. I think they've come to over rely upon their technology because they've lost their guest service component. and I say this because of my most recent experience flying, where I got stuck in Phoenix, stuck in Dallas to get here, and normally I don't really have problems with them. But their response to all of this is they like to lie. They just basically will blame it on something they don't have to be obligated to. Weather. Have you,
are you in all sincerity, Lauren, and I'm not picking nits here. I'm just curious. What's your status level on United?
United, I was at I made their first level.
Silver.
Current.
Yeah.
Current
Before I moved to Dallas, I was
current status.
Low. I'm not anything on United now.
Remember when you and I saw one another in an airport? We saw each other in an airport after high tech, and I was stuck in Minneapolis because my flight had been canceled, the United flight. So I'm gold. I want to be really transparent about this. And I have a dedicated line that I call, and they could not have been more helpful. So it might be something where they're treating folks without status. And treating,
This is American. American did this to me, not United.
You said United.
American.
I was going to say,
you said United.
No.
Oh, got it.
I had a problem with United either, but American, this was my first time I had a problem with it and I'm not saying I had an actual problem. It was just the delays and their response to it. I'll say this, that, okay, I'm at the gate in Phoenix, and they kept delaying the flight in increments of 15 minutes, so nobody could leave, because you don't know when they're going to start boarding.
Right.
Okay. Then they go over and they don't notify you, but TripIt is telling me that it's getting bumped by an hour, not by 15 minutes.
Right.
And then after it was delayed for 2 hours in 15-minute increments by saying nothing more than it's been delayed and there's no answers to this, and
they
the people
canceled.
weren't answering. No, they went over and they said, yes, this flight is now canceled, and you now need to go to customer service. As they're talking, I'm running down the hallway. I get in line. I'm 10th in line. 190 people are behind me. And there's one person at a counter of 6 terminals, and that does not change for 2.5 hours.
Yep.
Now, on the app, it tells me I can leave the airport and leave tomorrow morning. That's my book overflight. Their app was telling me to do that. Or I can just sit there and wait for the plane to finally leave and get stuck in Dallas, which is a hell of a better place to get stuck with American Airlines, because I have more options to get there. Okay. And so that's all I did. So actually, by the time I got up to the counter, and the thing was that there was staff in and out of the door the whole time, cutting through the line to get into the door that were service staff that did not grab a terminal.
I would argue that they weren't service staff at that point.
Obviously not.
Right.
Yeah. And the thing is that this goes back to why I used to hire non-hotel people to work in hotels with me, is that they saw from the guest perspective. All 190 people saw was there was one poor girl who could care less about what she was doing, because she was in no rush. Okay, to help 180 people, 90 people relocate themselves, and everybody else ignore it. Now, I know, because my sister works in the airlines. She was in Holland. All the stuff in the back is that she told me, it's like there's dozens of people trying to figure out how to reschedule and remove people and move them over to new flights, and they're pushing them through on their apps to tell them where they need to go. She says it wasn't just one person working on it, and that's what most hoteliers do. Is like, hey, it's shift change. That's why there's nobody at the front desk or whatever. We know the processes. But from the perception of the guest, it sucked. Eventually,
absolutely,
because they had no other option. But it's just one of those things where, to me, when you asked about American Airlines, I felt that they really, at that point, I saw them relying heavily on their technology, less on their guest service. The girl at the Dallas airport, and when people were coming up, they were waiting for crew. I thought I was going to miss my connection flight. That flight got delayed by hours. By the time I got up there, they were waiting for crew. And understandable. There was a weather situation in Dallas, and that screwed everything up. When one girl showed up, when the attendants showed up, a few people clapped, and the girl behind the counter, who was frazzled, thought it was being sarcastic, and she yelled at them, going, "Listen, these people are working all day. We just finally got it. We need one more." And it's like, no, they're like, "We're happy she's here." What you yelling at us?
Yeah.
And it was one of these things where it's like, guys, because she's overstressed. She's by herself, and there's 200 people standing around her asking the same stupid question every 5 seconds. Are we leaving? What's happening? Where are these people? And so she lost it. And that's the part that I think is that they've thinned themselves out from the guest service perspective.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And when they have those disruptions, they've got certain numbers of staff. They don't want to drive overtime. They don't want to call it. There are all these things, and the KPIs that they are measuring to are sitting back there on some sort of labor, level or something like that, and just going, nope, no thresholds and no additional staff, and let's make our quarter or whatever, and that's it. And the passengers, what are they going to do? Drive? sort of thing. Yeah. So
What's he gonna do?
That's it.
That
Yeah,
doesn't
what are they
sound
gonna
at all
do?
like a monopoly.
Yeah.
What's
Well,
he
and
gonna do about it?
And that's why they delay it, though. That's why they do these 15
What, you gonna keep
increments.
talking and crying?
Yeah.
Where are you gonna go?
Where you
Well,
gotta go?
but that's why they keep you intentionally hanging around the gate. They freeze you up so they don't release you to another airline because they say we know we're canceled, right? Because maybe they're pulling the plane to go put on another flight. It's not really. Oh, we fixed the mechanical thing, and sorry, we'd already pulled the plane away from the gate or something. Whatever they're doing. If they can freeze you up and you go, well, I'll hop on the United flight and go, oh, they're all gone.
Right.
Sort of thing. So delaying, helps them dramatically not lose all that revenue, right? So
What my sister-in-law told me? She says, at least they didn't put you on the plane and pull you into the tarmac and make you sit there. I'm like, wow, that's a great contrast.
Well, there are laws now.
They're not allowed to.
Exactly.
They would.
Oversight of that.
If
They
were
would.
allowed
They
to,
would.
they'd be like, get on the plane. We're fine. We're
Oh,
fine.
yeah.
Right.
You store them out on the tarmac.
Oh, sorry,
for 3
guys.
hours.
We got to shut off the air conditioner.
Yeah.
Costs too much fuel.
So
Yeah.
Smith Travel.
STR. Wow.
Travel.
Randy
Speaking of
Smith
Speaking
is
of
doing
businesses
okay.
about to be destroyed,
I don't know where. I didn't see this coming. I didn't see this coming. I mean, they've always.
I knew they had put themselves for that. Randy was listening to offers. People had been offering for a long time.
Oh,
Randy was very smart to hold out, I believe.
holy yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Did
they
he
sold.
scare everybody inside, or is it just all
I
him?
do not know. I don't know. So
Let's see,
Yeah,
'cause
I don't
we'll
that's
see if Jan Freitag buys a cigarette boat or something and moves from Tennessee to Miami or something. But,
Veronica, Chris, all of them. If all of a sudden it's like,
but
wow, that's good news.
these guys sold at 7x revenue and 28x EBITDA, which is a pretty aggressive number.
Yeah.
that's incredibly aggressive.
That is
especially at the scale of revenue that they were at.
right. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so a couple really weird things. I always on their website the global hotel census, right? That was their database of hotels, and man, it is good. A lot of stuff got really kind of not so good the further you got outside of the U.S., but still, it's pretty strong. Was always 190,000, and I actually did a screenshot of it, or pulled it from I think July, right? It said 190,000 hotel. This release said 65,000. So I think the new guys went in there and it was very transparent for acquiring a private firm like that. Exactly what the numbers were, what the profit, all those details were. I mean, these CoStar guys were certainly very, very transparent. But all of a sudden it's 65,000. You kind of go, oh, did they find some weren't quite updated that often, or what was that drop? So
yeah. There's going to be a lot of bad news coming to people who depended on STR data because you have to make up that premium.
Well, and they were running, and the big thing is what they're banking on is they were running STR was running 25% margins, and CoStar says by 2023 they're going to be running 40% margins. So
right.
I don't know. Prices may be going up.
Wow.
You don't know that prices may be going up?
Well, maybe they're making it up on volume. Does margin work that way? Wait a second. How does the gross operating... Ed mentioned WeWork. I think the negative gross operating profit, you make it up on volume. So I guess if you have positive, Gio.
Can you imagine what Cindy's thinking right now?
Can you blame her? I would be too.
Not,
Are you kidding me? I'd be hanging out a for sale sign like yesterday.
Exactly.
I mean, realistically, if there is, folks out there throwing that kind of money around, I'd think a beach looks nice.
But also,
I'd be happy to be laying on one.
Just to Ed's point into it was already expensive. Okay. In the lumber, it was just a relied upon component. But if they start coming back and going, "Hey guys, we're the new owners," and guess what? Here's your new bill.
Right.
And it's going to be like, what are our options? There's only really one other option in town that has any scalability at this point, and that's her,
Yeah.
And that's not even really good scalability, but it's going to get scalability pretty fast, I think. And if she keeps her pricing reasonable,
or worse, there's something valuable in that data that can be exploited for other reasons.
Oh, there's definitely. I think that's the real value proposition is that,
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
they're the largest commercial real estate data company, right? So this is another sector of commercial real estate for them. So that makes a lot of sense, especially now that you're doing all these multi-use properties where, and again, a lot of these hotel owners are like, well, I don't know, should we do hotel rooms or a WeWork, or how do we do this? Should it be some sort of mix of
this week
mix of
I would
whatever?
not do a WeWork, by the way. This is just my simple advice.
No, you don't think so?
I think not. I wouldn't sign a 10-year lease right now.
Well, you don't have to do that. WeWork signs the 10-year leases.
I wouldn't expect the 10-year lease to be worth anything in 10 months.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's interesting though, but
so
good for Smith and actually
plays.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to highly recommend, if you haven't watched it, is watch on Netflix The Big Hack, which is the story about Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that didn't make it in mainstream media about Cambridge Analytica and who owned them and what that company did professionally before building Cambridge Analytica. That company, their main source of revenue was training national militaries on psyops and how to manipulate the masses to give yourself an edge in war.
Yep.
Really interesting docuseries. And really the reason I bring it up is the entire time I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, you need to have ethics in your marketing decisions, because the world is starting to push back against unethical marketing tactics. And, I was talking to Lauren about this yesterday. Some of the fallout from Cambridge Analytica is, I truly believe the user-generated content aggregator industry is going to go to zero in the next 12 months. Some of the big players currently can't do anything with Instagram and Facebook because they were violating Facebook's terms of service and Facebook wasn't paying attention. So companies like Stackla, who hasn't hit as big of news as Hyper has. Stackla was also shut off and blocked from Facebook at the same time that Hyper was. And Stackla was about to IPO. Like, they were that close and of that scale. And they're suing Facebook. And of course, Facebook, their great response. You were scraping people's private stuff, and we have proof of it.
We're going to take the moral high ground.
Right. So that's why you're off. Where Stack was like, this is a monopoly and you shouldn't be able to shut a business off. Ethics, guys. We need to bring ethics back to business and stop chasing growth over ethics.
And
as
by the way,
and as a consumer of these types of products, you need to be asking yourself, is this an ethical company I'm doing business with? Is what I'm going to do with this vendor going to at all damage the relationship between me and my customer? If the answer isn't clear to the right side of you're only going to improve your relationship with your customer, don't do it. Because you've heard me talk about vendors in this space specifically. The rise of these flashy startups who really don't care. Like, they want to give you minimum viable solution product widget to scale.
They want Nexus. Is their objective?
And they don't at all care about what kind of damage it does to your business. And it's actually really nice to see Facebook continuing to crack down like they are, because they are taking an ethical road, which they can only take because Mark Zuckerberg still controls that business.
That's right. No, I think you're absolutely right. This is something I've been talking about a lot over the last year or so. I'm going to do the shameless self promotion thing for a second because we all have our bingo cards. We have to
obliged
check.
you contractually.
But I did a podcast episode last year about the lessons that marketers must learn from GDPR, and the point that I made there, and the point that I've talked about ever since, was GDPR exists because marketers screwed up, and we as marketers screwed up, right?
Yep.
GDPR exists, CCPA exists, Nevada's privacy law exists, the other ones that are coming will exist because finally consumers, finally citizens, finally regulators have started to say, these folks will not behave themselves. We need to make them do so.
Right.
And you look at the fundamental principles underlying GDPR. I have a lot of issues with GDPR as a regulation, not because I disagree with its intent, but I disagree with its implementation. There's the unintended consequences. But that said, its intent of privacy by default and privacy by design, the data belongs to the customer, and you should be doing everything you can to protect that data. Anyone who doesn't agree with that is wrong. You know what I mean?
and here's the thing: this industry has fallen victim to it really badly, not because of wanting to be evil. Pure laziness of this industry. They want to take the shortcut. And I'm not going to be shy to throw it out there. Do you guys know what major hotel brand was a big investor in Hyper?
I don't.
Anyone?
I really don't.
I thought Marriott was.
Marriott.
Yeah.
Very big.
So
one of their early customers. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The business model of Hyper should put the hair on the back of your neck up. They geofence every hotel in the world and scrape any posting that originates from that to create a rolling profile on travelers without their knowledge.
Yeah, that's absurd.
That is massive scale spying.
Yeah,
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And commercializing it, that is Cambridge Analytica. Hyper is doing exactly what Cambridge Analytica did. The difference is who their customers were. And Hyper's customers were primarily travel. And so here's the thing. Just because you can do something it's technically not legal.
Or not illegal.
Technically not illegal. Technically not
illegal. If you have to use the word technically, as a marketer,
correct.
You need to stop.
Correct.
Okay.
Completely agreed.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And it's
like, if the best defense you can make was, well, it was legal, you're an asshole. Pardon my French, but you're a bad person.
But where this gets really complicated,
or you just didn't think it through near enough.
Yeah, but it's the intent of these things, right? Because this data, it's a tool, right? And Tim, time to fill in with the ship and the shipwreck analogy, but it can be used for great, positive, customer aiding things, and then you get a management team ship.
Things and horrible things. But here's the thing. How you choose to use it does not exonerate you with your customers.
Correct.
On the fact that it's still ethically wrong. It's ethically wrong to spy on people, even if you're going to use the stuff you learn for good.
So
it's wrong.
There's a new book. I have only just started it. I'm literally just a couple of pages in. Brad Smith is, I think he's chief legal counsel at Microsoft. He's been at Microsoft forever. And he has a new book called Tools or Weapons. And it's basically the ship versus shipwreck discussion. And I'm only a little bit of the way into it. I'm already hooked. It's gripping.
Well, anyone who went through Microsoft, Microsoft and that whole monopoly issue, at least with that, they did not have evil intent at all. This is the thing. They just built better stuff than what anyone else did.
Yeah, that's not true.
No, they were pretty evil.
That's not true. They were pretty evil, lad.
Yeah.
I don't think they were evil.
They were. I won't say they were evil. I won't say they were evil. I will not.
They were very opportunistic.
They were.
Right. I'm comparing them to what Cambridge Analytica did, which was straight up evil. Using propaganda targeted at the people that they identified would be most susceptible.
Of course. No. I understand that. My point is that they were not evil. They were undoubtedly illegally leveraging their monopoly power.
I'll give you that. But it wasn't evil.
It was aggressive. It was aggressive competition in the extreme, which, for better or worse, in this country, we have a legal framework that says that when you are in a monopoly position, you don't get to play by the same rules as everyone else. And I think that I would argue that is a good thing for people in the long run.
I'll give you that.
I think we need to quote Uncle Ben from Spider-Man: "With great power comes great responsibility."
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So I will say, this, and then watching, there are vendors in our industry that I'm already seeing hoteliers starting to smarten up to.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it in the DMO industry too, because there's a lot of bad actors in the DMO industry that the DMOs are starting to pick up on this. You have to constantly question if what the thing you're looking to buy, if you can't answer, whether or not it damages or helps your customer relationship, and then you need to understand the motivations of the company you're working with.
Right.
Are they actually invested in making your day better, or are you a means to an end for them and they actually don't care? There's instances of this all over hospitality right now that drive me crazy. The massive scaled agencies. I'm sorry, anyone in the agency world can tell you that at scale, agencies do not provide the value because they can't. You can't scale an agency massively. So what do? Well, they become opaque. So, you're going to pay them a ton of money, have no clue what value they really drive for you because that's what they do. That's not good for you. It's not good for your customer.
Right. You will get reports. You'll get standardized reports with metrics, and everything will be templated. It'll be templated out. And
15% commission and 85% confusion.
Right. Yeah.
But Ed, I want to go back to your point about, thinking about the guest for a second here. One of the things that I think the industry can lose sight of from time to time when we talk about these things and needs to go back to is something that I think a lot of people in this industry take very seriously. I'm dead serious about this. I think people take this very seriously, and that is duty of care. And this is a duty of care question. If you are exposing your customers' data, you're exposing your customers' private information, you're exposing your customers', candid thoughts and, things like that and behaviors to other folks.
I'm not sure I understand.
Speaking of,
there you go.
You need to be very clear about what's going on there.
Look across. It's not just duty of care on that. It's do not take advantage of others who have done that. So,
I agree, but if you're, saying if you're exercising duty of care, you wouldn't work with the folks who are taking advantage of that stuff.
Right.
I sometimes joke about this. I've spent most of my career in either financial services or the hospitality industry, and I've often said that, we ask people in those two industries two of the most private questions you could ever ask somebody, which is, will you give me your money, or will you sleep with me tonight? And I think we have this very real sense of when you're asking those kinds of questions of people, it is incumbent upon you to be very careful in what you do with any component of that person's life, whether it is their physical person in your hotel or whether it is their information that you're sharing with others, that they are providing to you for a limited purpose that you are then potentially sharing with others who shouldn't have rights to it. And I think that that's something we need to be very careful about always. Or we're not creating tools, we're creating weapons. We're not creating ships, we're creating shipwrecks. right?
But Tim, it said in the terms of service, what they clicked on, it was right there in paragraph 37, subsection B.
Yeah.
The job of a marketer should not be to trick a consumer.
Goddamn
and
right.
if you're working for a company
that's a good quote.
Trick
that is a
consumers,
good quote.
That is a very good quote.
Yeah.
No, we all get exposed to different services that promise the ability to enhance the data that we have, to triangulate information, to create specificities as to who we're exactly marketing to. Yeah. And I just was exposed to speaking at a conference, and somebody came up and was showing what they were doing and their ability to do it. And yes, at face value, its singularity of what it does is legal. Its ability to be manipulated with other things makes it illegal, because like any navigation, if you get 3 points that cross in one spot, you now have identified a particular point. And with their inclusion of what they can track with what can be tracked somewhere over here and somewhere over here, all of a sudden you've gone from the anonymity of a guest potential to the specificity of the guest. And you can do a lot with that. And that's dangerous. And they know that. That's what they're selling.
Well, I posted a thing from last year, which is Google knows where you've been, but doesn't know who you are, from the New York Times, right? Just about a year ago. The data is insane, because whatever your residential address is, and again, now Android has added this feature, which is very nice. It'll now pop up, such and such in the background is recording your location every time, right? And if you look through it, I mean, most people, if they have, 100 apps or something like that, my guess would be 90 of them are doing that, right? They're just,
and it's worse. It's worse on the Android platform, because it for a long time didn't give you the proactive control to restrict it.
Exactly.
Everybody
just opted into it.
Yeah, Google just rolled out some new stuff too, that for security, where you can purge out location over a period of time and stuff. And they would not do this if it wasn't, as to your point, Ed, people are waking up going, wait a minute, because I play a video when I do conferences of what Google knows about you and what and that knows about you, and it scares the crap out of everybody that's there.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and this particular case, they know that you're spending 10 hours a day at this particular address in this residential area, and then ding, 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 here's every place. Oh, you go to that dry cleaner, you eat at that fast food restaurant, you do whatever, and it's all anonymized. And as you said, you don't have to triangulate it. All you need is another database that goes, who's at that address, which is pretty easy to get. I think I'm pretty sure I know who that is.
So it's not illegal.
No,
but
it's not illegal. Yeah, and that's where it gets complicated. Is how you get these different, how you cross-referencing, and that's rough.
Yep.
So
and I'm so disgusted by where some vendors have gone in this industry, and how blatantly ignorant certain actors in this industry are being to these very bad acts. And you look at that, and it used to be, it reminds me of like old school wrestling versus new school, where old school wrestling, you knew who was good, you knew who was bad. New school wrestling, everyone's both. Well, like that's kind of how things have gone here, where you look at, how rare ethics are in the new technologies that have come into this industry, and how willing companies are to disclose what they're really doing in a way that's confusing, knowing that their hotel isn't going to ask questions beyond this, because it's that tech thing. It's complicated. Yeah. But here's the thing: it's your guest, and and it's gone in such a bad direction, and it it invalidates your value as a hospitality.
Exactly that.
Wait. You mentioned the word guests. Are you sure it's guests or just short-term lessees?
Oh, right. Livestock. I mean,
it's funny that you say that, because I decided I want to jump on, watch out for, not enemies, but watch out what people, software platforms and service providers are saying about themselves as to what they do and what they offer, and they offer the webinars up and so forth. Because being in tune with this online training stuff, I wanted to see how they were doing it, what they were saying, and it was hard to choke back, not just lighting up on the chat box of like, you are lying through your freaking teeth right now. You know, and or what you're saying is so off of what it's and what you say
so adjacent to truth.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
And you just sit there going, oh my God, and there's people that are listening going, oh, this is amazing, and you're sitting there going, oh my God, the emperor has no clothes, man. It's not it's not there. And it is amazing that is this deceptiveness that's going on in the service offerings. And because Stuart's not here, we're going to throw it in there anyway. Attribution theft is real.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny. I was at Martech East a couple weeks ago with a company that I advise, and the CEO was talking to somebody. It's funny. This is going to be on a podcast in a week or so. Not mine, but another one that I'm affiliated with. And the CEO was talking to a vendor who provides data services, essentially, for marketing. And the CEO asked the guy, the CEO of the company I work with, asked the guy about GDPR. And the guy's response was, oh, we're an American company. We don't worry about that. And literally, the CEO was telling me afterwards, he said literally, it took all he could do to not punch the guy in the face. Because, like, dude, you don't belong anywhere near anyone's data or anyone's person. You're not a good person at that point. So
it is surprising, and in that sense too. And unfortunately, some of the solution providers for some of these things like compliance, GDPR, the ADA compliance and so forth, are getting almost as bad as the people that are instigating the issues.
Oh,
well,
yes.
but
the fees the exorbitant fees they're charging, because first and foremost,
the price
GDPR is still very gray. Right. So you actually can't get certified, and yet these certification companies have put out these very expensive packages.
Right.
Get you on the right track.
Right.
Yeah.
It's actually not hard to get on the right track.
That's exactly right.
And it doesn't cost as much as you're paying these companies.
That's exactly right.
It is. It's. I don't know if it's a shift. Maybe I was rosy-eyed at one point and didn't see the bad in people, but it kind of seems like
there's definitely a shift,
everywhere.
Ed,
It seems just way more prominent that everyone's just trying to screw you, and it makes me sad. Like, we actually got a customer emailed us a testimonial, which, back in the day, the testimonials from my other company would be, wow, you've saved us so much time. This has changed the way we do distribution. Like, really focused on the value of what the new technology did. This customer's thing that they loved about us made me so sad, because it was centered around, one, we didn't lie to them.
Right.
Two, when difficulties came up, we didn't blame it on everyone around us. We actually solved it, even though it wasn't our issue.
Right.
And three, we always respond to them when they need something, and we proactively ask them if there's anything else we can help them with.
Right.
So
nothing in there about my product.
Aside from the asking them to help with, the others should be just like table stakes. Right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
You're team member to your client. You're there to help them on what they're. I mean, again, it's kind of funny you say this with the ADA compliance. We're doing this for hotels, and we just do the monthly reporting, and we're trying to find our own live testers. Because all the services out there were astronomical in cost to do live testing for ADA compliance. Right. They went up, and so we were talking to one group that did live compliance, and the first quote we got from them was around $1,500 a month. Okay, that was pretty affordable compared to what we're comparing it against. We called 5 days later to go over and get back with them about trying to instigate it. It went up to $9,000 in 5 days. Simply because they could, because they realized how underpriced they were, because we were literally other services were 10 to 15,000 over a time cycle, and it's like, you're kidding me,
Lauren.
Come from
Lauren, did you accidentally tell them that they were grossly underpriced during that
I may
process?
have unfortunately mentioned it. No, I just
No, okay, so I'm going to come at this from a different perspective.
Really?
I'm going to come at this from a different perspective. If you are a hospitality marketer listening to we four jaded, bitter, used up husks of human beings, right? What you should take away from this is what you're competing against a lot of the time. And if you look at the properties that are doing well, how are they doing it? They're doing it on service. They're doing it on taking care of their guests. They're doing it on offering great value, etc. You can still win that way. You can still win often that way. The trick is not to find the trick. The trick is to take care of your guests. The trick is to offer a good service. The trick is to offer good value. And it's amazing the properties that do a great job of that, where guests willingly provide them information about, when's your birthday? Because we'd like to send you something. Because they're like, I know you will.
When's your birthday? Because we'd really like to sell your data.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. The folks who aren't doing that are the ones that people willingly share with them when their anniversary is, or when their birthday is, or when, those kinds of things are. Because the hoteliers, the people in the hospitality industry, dare I say, who gather that information, not collect that data, use it to wish their customers well, not to use that for some sort of, targeting or things along those lines.
If we get this one more data point,
oh yeah,
exactly,
our compound annual growth rate will increase by X because we can sell it to 10 different things that have.
Right. Yeah.
Well, then there's also the abuse of the data, just from generality, where you have the unspecificities and so forth. Yeah, but you're very right about it. It is just if you look at everything through the lens, like even I was asking about the flight addition to the website, does it actually improve the guest value proposition, or it doesn't? And to Ed's point, it's a marketing issue. If you are pushing the fact that you're offering more service availabilities on your site, then it can be a value asset. If you're in fact just doing it and you're not making it aware, then you're really just creating an inconvenience extra navigation point that they've already decided on elsewhere. So it's really how you approach these solutions as well.
Adele Gutman from the Library Hotel Collection is very fond of saying that, the Library Hotel always invests strategically in all sorts of things. But the number one question they always ask is, does this improve the experience for the guest? And if the answer is yes, then they're going to invest in it. If the answer is no, then they're simply going to move away from it. Right. And they're a hotel company that does very well for themselves. Go for
they do.
And they haven't scaled to having 80 hotels around the world and all that sort of thing, which you probably could if they were acquired by. And I'm sure folks have,
Oh, you
sought out to
I think
them.
You can scale.
We could go. We could do the literature themed hotels, the music themed hotels, the
Budapest has a piano, and it's just amazing what they did for the. The hotels are beautiful. They're really unique. And it's so funny when I first met Adele years ago, I was thought, you're such on this TripAdvisor mantra. It wasn't. It took me years to really understand her focus. TripAdvisor was the vehicle of her discussion. It was the centric listening to guests that was her focus. That the TripAdvisor was just the means of the vehicle of communication. Now, TripAdvisor has long since betrayed that, but she hasn't betrayed it to the core of what her satisfaction is literally the guest engagement conversations. How well did you like it? What did you like about it? How can we make it better for you? This is a persistent thing that she has driven as a cultural point into her hotels. I think she has been literally the vanguard of that. But
they were doing that before TripAdvisor, really.
That's exactly right.
That was their policy of always, preemptively trying to avoid the issues of what would dissatisfy a guest, right? Fix it before it winds up in a review or somebody tells something about it. Was always kind of their operating procedure.
My story that I love to tell, the owner of the hotels that I work with down in Charleston, South Carolina, who I mention regularly because I love these properties. They're great folks. They do a great job.
They are awesome.
The owner of that group, who has since retired now, his daughter is running the company and doing a wonderful job. But he when I started working with him 8 years ago, and for the better chunk of that 8-year period, he would read the guest comment cards, not the electronic surveys, none of that. I mean, he read all that too, but the actual physical comment cards. He would sit down once a week with the stack of comment cards and read every single one of them and reply to them, and all of those kinds of things. But he would go through them one by one every single week. And this is the guy who's running a 4-property, group of hotels, servicing, literally millions of guests every year. Hundreds
and
of
on
thousands
top of that,
guests every
was
year.
on the board of his destination marketing organization,
And also on the board of the hospitality program at the local college. Yeah,
Right.
Right. There's a guy who's dedicated his life to hospitality on the market and things like that. And what was he doing? He was reading comment cards.
Right.
But as a good leader, and it's a testament because his daughter has filled his shoes, meant that he surrounded himself with people that were excellent at what they did, so that
And him.
was important because he knew
And also me.
It was mostly Tim, actually. Yeah, everything else.
Oh no! I meant that the other way around, Robert. I meant
it is a joy to
the brand a little bit,
It is it's a joy to work with those people that are focused on the business. The business is the people, and they're making that they're great leaders. That they themselves aren't the cat. They don't see themselves as the one that is the creator of the success. It's the people around them that they create the success.
Right.
Yep.
And it is always impressive.
Get out your bingo card. My Journey's End. What did we do? Economy lodging, right? Yep. So you don't expect much. We first centralized all the comment cards. We basically took them, and all the guest comments, we actually typed them into the computer, right? So you'd actually have it. You got it in a database, so you could read everything. Didn't have sentiment analysis, things like that, but you had all the various things of what like that. Those became a measure of the general manager's performance, of overall KPIs that had to be met for the properties. It was part of the entire group, and we replied back to the customer within 10 days of their departure with a personalized letter that was, quote, signed by the...
So this was Journey's End when it was hotels, before it was a funeral home. Worst name for a hotel, Journey's End.
Didn't pick the name, but anyway, for it. But again, that we were doing it for, at the time, 96 properties, getting back, and people were shocked. I mean, they're like, we were getting letters back, and the chairman was getting letters back, going, "Oh my God, I stayed at whatever luxury hotel, and I had a negative report." We sent them back to people with positive things, just going, "Thanks so much." Oh, it was an opportunity to tell them about hey, we're opening in Saskatchewan, sort of
thing.
So
did you guys call that a loyalty program? Because that's actually how you get loyalty.
Yeah, actually, we wound up doing a preferred guest program, right? And we knew it had nothing to do with loyalty. Our big thing was, we had too much demand at the call center. We literally could not staff it, right, sufficiently to get them to talk to a person to make a reservation, things like that. So and this was pre-internet, right? So we didn't just send them to the website. That was a real neck of the hourglass problem. We gave the preferred guest, and all you didn't have to pay anything. You just signed up, and we sent you a card, right? And you basically got a phone number on it. Right. That was about it. And we had numbers on the cards, so for the future we could maybe do something, but we didn't. We didn't have any fields to go do. We didn't have computers to go do stuff with that. But let me tell you, all of a sudden, those guys got the priority queue. It's kind of like Amazon Prime, right? They got in, they could do it. It worked for them, and it was great.
Before we get to lose Tim or something,
I just wanted to say one quick thing about what Robert just said, because when people talk about loyalty programs, what saddens me in the industry lately, the last 5 years or so, is that whenever we talk about loyalty programs, we were talking about rewards programs. And there's another whole school of loyalty programs, which are recognition programs, which is actually what Robert's describing. And we need to see the comeback of recognition programs. Yes. It would be great for the industry as a whole. Anyway,
well, the loyalty programs, you see a lot of them, they're designed to own the customer.
Correct.
Right. And you're like, that doesn't sound like loyalty.
Nothing about that sounds like it's a two-way street of loyalty.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Frequency program. You give.
I am going to have to bolt here in just a moment. So
yeah,
Tim, I want to nice to have you on the show.
Thanks.
Yeah. Now you have a choice. Yeah, I figured you give a choice. We need to do the Rutwer while you're here, or we can hit on this really bizarre article that some Robert Cole, Bill Carroll thing on Focus.
Unfortunately, I have to jump on a call at 1:00, so you will have to do each of those without me.
See, I wanted you to talk about Robert in a strange and derogatory way.
Which one was Robert's? I read the
group one. The group one.
Bill Carroll and I are
disconnected, misunderstood.
Yeah.
It started out with they need to do a little bit more research, which Focusrite can probably do to help the industry. And Carol and I kind of thought, we should put some stuff together here to try to.
I know. I think that's fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. Bill, by the way, lives in my town now.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. Really, I ran into him in the dry cleaner one day.
Wow. I expected him to move where he was. I mean, I thought he was always going back on campus and.
No. He's been in Jersey for his whole. But he may have moved to your town, but he's been in Jersey for a long time.
But nonetheless, I really do have
back to his Hertz days.
Yeah. I really do have to.
We'll let you
always
go.
A pleasure.
Always, Mr. Tim. If people want to hear your amazing podcast or know more about you, where is it that they can go?
timpeter.com/podcast. Hope you all have a great weekend, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. All right.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Tim.
Later, everybody.
Very good.
Bye now.
Bye.
So, Robert, out of what you did with Bill, I mean, what was the big takeaway? By the way, I love what Focusrite did with the scroll down and the addition wedges into the pie.
Wasn't that cool? That was a
nice.
very, very cool little feature.
That was a nice little trigger point to the scroll, which I thought was very nice. So, kudos to that.
Yeah. So the takeaway is do some research, because that's but again, I think we really. Bill was really interested in putting together, this research thing, which will sincerely help the industry, and then I helped him out with doing a lot of the.
Was this one in the branded research? Was this a lot of brand hotel, almost all brand hotel? I mean, because the Central Res had what I thought was an artificial amount.
What do you mean? No. This is the overall distribution for the industry. So when you break it up, the hotel web. This is the whole thing where you see and this is such a disservice to the industry, where you see the book direct campaigns are working. Look at this, because if you look at the whole chart, you go, oh, in 2018, hotel websites 23% of business, and in 2022, it's going to be 25%. That's because Book Direct is working. Look at that growth rate. And you go, and OTAs are going from 24 to 25, right? So the growth rate is faster, except the big blue corner, which says Central Reservations / Property Direct. So a lot of Property Direct, that may be group, that may be, walk-ins, it's corporate that's going direct, all that sort of stuff. That goes from 43 to 38. That is direct business. It's not online direct, right? So when you put the two together, you go, in 2018, that's 66% of the business is going basically direct to the hotel, not through intermediaries, right? 66-33. And then you look in 2022, what we're projecting is you go, oh, wait a second, that's down to 63%. You've lost 3 points, or you've lost 5%, right, of your booking. Your direct bookings are dropping, and the OTAs are growing much, much more rapidly, right? Because a lot of that, it's going online is because it's business you're getting anyway direct that's just moved online, right? It's not an incremental customer or a share shift from an intermediary, right? And that's ridiculous. So anyway. So we just kind of laid out, group bookings are a huge opportunity. There's a lot of play going on in that sector, which is not necessarily helping a lot of anybody, sort of thing. So
the rut row
and
is
it's getting heavily intermediary. Oh, before we do the rut row, I thought there were a couple really interesting things that were mentioned even earlier. So we mentioned Blackstone owning Arizona Biltmore. Oh, they're buying 65% of Great Wolf.
That is
I'm
sad.
so sad by that.
Well, that's going to get spun off, and Blackstone's going to make a bunch of money. Right. So, you guys didn't jump on the Chip and Joanna Gaines are opening a hotel in Waco, Texas.
I did. I made a side comment before you were on.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Those guys have built a little industry down there of restaurants. They're doing their own TV network.
They
it's
are
also
playing local celebrity hard.
It is local. It is all local, right? That they've now gone, national. And the articles from Architectural Digest, right? It isn't just like some local news. They're very, very smart, entrepreneurs, right? Resort fee legislation. Yeah, that's the anti-guest stuff that is really, really horrible. And then
10 minutes ago rant.
Yeah, exactly. And then I thought the one with CBRE, the Managing RevPAR for Profits from Rob Mandelbaum, who's kind of a favorite author from mine. They have a great chart on their RevPAR and gross operating profit change from 2012 to 2018. And all of a sudden in 2012 to 2014, it was around 10% gross, or the percentage change, right? Gross operating profit was growing around 10% a year. Since 2016, it's below 2%, and it's about 1%, right? And you can see, 2016 is when everything plateaued. Huh? Who knew?
I mean, but here's the thing. That's how a healthy economy would work. You can't just always
keep going up. Oh,
no.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. There's a song my kids love called Rise. Recommend listening to it. Because you're going to rise until you fall. It's like we should be so happy that actually the better number is the 16 forward. That is healthy, sustainable.
Yeah, because it's not a lot of growth. It's not a lot of year-over-year growth, but it's profitable and going. What they didn't do, I wish they would have shown that from 2006, maybe.
Right.
And all of a sudden you see that negative gross operating, just like, oh my God, when it's down 20-30%, going into the, diving into the hole sort of thing. But but that was interesting. And so we can move to the rut row. There was also a related I love this. SoftBank Vision Fund chief rejects criticism over valuations. And you're like, wow, just might as well. We're in the age of doubling down on bad ideas, I guess.
Yep. Ball in, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey.
Not only did I tell the Ukraine, but I was asking China the same thing.
Oh, Tim's left. He'd like to weigh in on something political like that. But anyway, so the rut row is Adam Newman, the former CEO of WeWork, who before the S1 managed to extract $750 million from the company, which I guess just meant he was in such support of it going public and very eagerly awaiting it. One of his side deals is this group, Selena, and they are targeting hotels. So what do you know? It provides travelers with co-working spaces, accommodation, and leisure activities. So kind of in that Airbnb-ish, kind of hotel-ish, kind of tours and activity, which is the perfect pitch to go into something. They're trying to raise $500 million. What could go wrong?
Nothing.
Yeah, then let me tell you, this process has worked exceedingly well for Adam. But the best one is if you listen to Scott Galloway, the NYU professor, who's also on Recode, Carl Swisher has Pivot and also does a thing, or Pivot with Scott. And he's doing something new, Section 4 on YouTube, because Gartner bought L2, which was his original company. So now he's more freelancing. But he's the one who really kind of outed WeWork. And his great comment I love was death by S1. That, what basically won was the marketplace and math finally kind of figured this thing. Got this thing figured out. So anyway, so Selena, Ed, you basically going to leverage up everything you got and flip to home, all in on Selena? Is that?
Of course. I'll use all the profits from my Uber IPO profits and my Lyft IPO profits and my Peloton IPO profits. Because those were also great companies worth giving money to.
Actually, in the case of Peloton, I really think is a great company. The valuation was bad. It's grossly overvalued.
A company that is going to become horrible because they're going to be ruined by the weight of that IPO valuation.
Right, absolutely.
IPOs,
they were a really good.
Listen, relationships don't get easier when you have children.
Right.
Bad businesses don't get better when they IPO. It's the same thing.
That's right. Yeah, but Peloton, I think, was a good. Maybe not great. I think it was a good, solid business. They had interesting revenue streams. They were doing equipment.
Don't add solid. They were good. They were still losing money, so they weren't.
But they had positive gross operating profits, which would show you that, hey, through scale and things like that, then it works. The negative gross operating profits don't scale well,
right?
At least in my experience, right? So I thought they were good, and they had recurring revenue streams.
Yep.
I think they were retaining their customers well.
Yep.
As a quality product, they were building a community. They were doing all the stuff right, but for that valuation was like, whoa. I really wish they would have just kept it as being a really good company that was just running itself and probably being profitable and doing a really good job and taking care of their employees. The worst thing on WeWork is and Galloway's been all over this. He's like, the next thing that's coming is the layoffs. Just wait. They're going to lay off a third of their workforce. All these people who were banking because the S1 came out on being millionaires, right? Because this was about to be unemployed. Yep. And all these spaces, all the guys who own the real estate, who built it out to WeWork standards and got these leases which are going to get walked away from, or God knows what are they going to do with all that stuff? We've got a kombucha bar and pool table and God knows whatever else. How are we going to reconfigure that, and who's going to stay? Yeah.
Well, the sad part too is that there are some locations of WeWorks that just aren't working. There's just not enough usage of them that they've been keeping propped up. I mean, there's one in Dallas that we have an office at that we have been moved into a 6-person office when we're paying for a 2-person office, simply because they keep wanting to incentivize us to stay. And so they keep giving us more and more space for the same price.
So there aren't other people in your office. You don't have 4 other people in your office.
That actually helps the metric, which is that 6-person office, which is the premium office, is occupied.
Right.
Way more than the 2-person office.
Exactly.
And the amount of 2-person offices that have moved to 6-person offices, the upward mobility, is that percentage is amazing.
Right. Yeah. And it also means that it's a lower entry point for those who are looking for space. So they have a better negotiation point for the 2-room offices because they have the availability. They can negotiate the price differently. Hey, real quick thing on this. Did you move up to the 5?
No,
I know it's not. It was a big change for
one.
Me because from 3 to 5 was a big change.
Yeah, I noticed. I didn't see it until this morning, but I noticed you tried to walkie-talkie with me last night.
Yeah. I thought, if I ever mess with anybody with tech, it's you, dude. It's like, but you know what?
You know what it is when I'm home, I put all my electronics away and I just hang out with my family. I know it's a novel idea, but
right.
Are you okay? You okay, Robert?
No. Now, Ed, you know what you do is if you give all your kids screens, you won't even see them. right? They're just
I know,
gone.
and I hate it.
But no, the one. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to this. I like the bigger screen. I like the better speakers and all this other stuff. I love that they put memo on it, because for me, the thing that got me into tech,
What's memo?
It's just you tap it and you can say remind me to
Great
buy
notes.
coffee or something, whatever. What got me into being a geek at tech was my wife bought me back in 1996 a little voice recorder that I could remind myself of stuff when I was running food and beverage. Like just to remind us, like, all right, we got to clean such and such. And then when I sat down at my desk, I had a little flip notepad. I'd write the stuff down so I could go and follow up with it and stuff like that. That's what got me into all this techno gadget stuff, was this stuff. And it kind of went full circle. Now my watch does it. I get to just go tap, remind me to do such and such. Or,
By the way, the irony of that is, have you seen the Apple Watch commercials?
Yeah, they're pushing it to be that tells time.
They tell time. And
Yeah.
the second time I saw it, I caught it, and I looked at my wife, and I'm like, so do people not understand that the Apple Watch tells time? Like did their data show that that was lost on people? Because if so, that's amazing. That is a amazing outcome to what they've done to the watch industry, that they have to remind people that watches tell time.
Yeah. No,
I think they were just being glib. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's got the decibel level thing, the air quality thing. I'm sitting there going, good golly, I have different screens now for stuff that's amazing.
Now, wait, air quality. What's that do? Is that just reporting a local
It's just reporting
station?
air quality. Yeah, it's just same with it's not a function of the watch where you're holding it up and seeing what the wind speed is. Yeah. It's reported to all the stuff, but it's kind of fun. UV. I have a weather one that's literally when I'm out in the boat, I have UV, airspeed, air quality.
Again, not sensors. It's
right. It's got they're tapped into probably IBM, who owns weather.com and NOAA, whoever
on it now and all this. It's one of those things where it's like it's calculator. It was so funny until they actually put the calculator on. It dawned on me that the watch never had a calculator function, which back in the day I used to be the geek with the calculator watch. The little
the first smartwatch.
Yeah, and now I have one again. I'm like, this is all great. It's like full circle, Hakuna Matata, circle of life.
But you think of what they've consolidated into the what? Now you've got. They haven't done the camera yet, right? That'll be next.
But you can run the camera on your phone from your watch.
From your watch, yes, yeah.
And
they haven't embedded the camera yet. But
that's what I have this one for. Yeah. This little 18-gram one. Snap it right there. Now I get my own POV kit.
18 grand?
18 grams. That's all it weighs.
Oh, I was about to tell you were insane.
No, it's a 16K camera.
And this is a battery pack for you. You just plug it into the back of your phone, and I mean, it's POV. It's pretty neat. Just tap it, and it records for 30 seconds.
Now, is that a lightning adapter? Everything lightning based? Yeah.
Maybe not. But yeah, it's neat.
So anyways, since no one's going to listen to this point, Inside Bill Gates' Mind, if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. The Great Hack, which is the Cambridge Analytica.
I didn't even know that one existed. I want to go watch that. I want to see that.
Yeah, that's great.
Really, really good.
The parent company, SDL, which was like Strategic, Decisions Limited or something. Yeah. They were doing all these campaign,
in the Great
influence
Hack,
campaigns.
In the Great Hack, they play the sales pitch for SDL, and then play the sales pitch for Cambridge Analytica. Yeah. The only difference is who they're talking to. It's the same thing. It's PSYOP. It's complete PSYOP. And we have to be careful on how we legislate this, because you shouldn't make targeting and finding out who the dumb people are illegal, because quite honestly, we should be doing that to try and educate those people. You should make propaganda illegal.
Yeah.
Because that's actually the bullet that they used.
Misinformation, propaganda. Yeah.
Oh, it was no, I mean, if you actually look at it, because they cover it and they put it all together, it's straight up propaganda. And that's age old, and Listen, we should be targeting those people
Oh.
and putting those people in education programs.
Did you see there was a piece of news piece that I haven't had a chance to chase it down whether it was just BS or not, but they went over and said that millions of fake identities were created in the when the legislation was going through for taxing the internet. That a lot of BS, the lobbyists went over and created a lot of fake millions of fake IDs, and a propaganda push
to lobby against it.
To lobby against,
Absolutely.
yeah. They said one of the largest creations of fake identities or whatever. I haven't looked into it to see whether it's just BS or not.
Wow.
It's like, what?
Oh no, absolutely. That's again what gets done in other countries and things like that by nation states to go influence people to go, hey, we've got to get the hearts and minds of these folks. Well, that's certainly one quite effective technique to do so.
Yep.
Yeah.
So highly recommend those to watch. They're very good. Bill Gates, what he's getting done, holy smokes. Because it's 3 episodes, and the 3 episodes, it covers the 3 big things he has taken on to tackle to solve the basic needs of humanity. One of them is completely done, like checkbox. Now it's just deploy it. One of them.
Now wait, is that malaria?
No.
Malaria,
No.
He's getting pretty close though.
They didn't cover malaria in this. They covered polio.
They didn't? Okay.
No. They covered polio, and he's down to like 37 cases, I think. And he's not sure how he's going to get past the threshold on that. But sanitation was the first episode. That's actually the root cause of what's killing a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Sanitation. And he's fixed it. He's fixed it at both the local scale and the large scale, and it's now being deployed. Second,
did they do have a little water filter, like the clean water filter?
No. It's not water. He's fixing the other side of sanitation. What do you do with human waste?
Oh, okay.
And how do you do
That's
it
great.
without outside power, without big expense, and without needing an engineer to run it? So that's the first episode. Second episode's polio. Third episode's nuclear. And he's actually, like, if it wasn't for Trump and his trade war with China, he was about to start building nuclear plants in China that the U.S. had approved, because he's figured out how to build a nuclear power plant that doesn't blow up when anything goes wrong. And, oh, by the way, this nuclear power plant runs on depleted uranium.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And when it depletes the depleted uranium, there's no nuclear waste.
Right.
So it can handle earthquake, tsunami, losing power. Because actually what destroys most nuclear power plants is when you shut the power off.
Right. Because the cooling system turns off. Yeah, that's your problem. Yep.
So he has solved nuclear power and has fixed the nuclear waste issue if he can start building these things.
Right.
Like, what he is accomplishing right now is amazing.
Yeah.
So watch it. It's absolutely
cool. No, definitely
to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's a brilliant guy. He was in the 80s very well, and through the 90s they did get very, very aggressive in terms of snuffing out other, because I remember the whole Netscape Internet Explorer thing was ugly. He did. He saw the and he married one of his product managers. So what was going on there with the
she's incredibly brilliant though. She's
absolutely
incredibly brilliant.
Both of them.
So anyway, so watch those this weekend. There'll be a report due on Tuesday from both of you. Gates
is a couple years older than me, but a really good friend from elementary school. His older brother went to the private, high school, with him. And he said Gates was the guy who would be most likely at a party to blend into the woodwork. Just nobody knew or reckoned. He was just kind of not that he was a super weird guy, or he just was a really average guy. Right.
Oh no, they tell the story. Like you'll see, because in between the things he's solving, they're actually telling like his story. It's really well done.
Did they mention Did they mention his dad's impact on the IBM deal, which is what made Microsoft, though? His dad was one of the leading
I can't remember if they did,
corporate
but
attorneys in
they
Seattle.
spent a lot of time on his mom, who
Oh,
is a lot of the reason that him and his sister, because his sister is, very successful and has done many great things as well. It's why they are the way they are. It's.
But his dad apparently
Enjoy
was
it.
the guy who said, "Hey, when you go to IBM, here's the deal. Just throw in you keep your intellectual property rights on this thing." Now they're going to pull it out, but why not ask, right? I mean, it gives them to take out. Okay, we can. And IBM, who was all about selling iron as opposed to software, was the free
It's
stuff
like, yeah,
that
no
came
problem.
with,
Yeah.
that sold the hardware. They just signed it, and it's like, wait, we just sold you PC DOS, and we get to keep. We need a name, MS DOS. Okay, it's the same thing. Unbelievable.
Yep.
Absolutely unbelievable. And
Yep.
IBM created Microsoft, right? The same way Expedia created Booking.com. Same deal. Just market leader missing the opportunity.
They're great. You'll enjoy them. You'll really feel educated from it. I'm really looking forward to talking to you about the Cambridge Analytica stuff once
I
you
want to see
watch
that
it,
one.
because Stuart and I have talked about it, and because what actually the technology is capable of doing, you realize that even these people who are at the forefront of talking about what was done wrong, they're getting it wrong. The detail of it's wrong. The premise of their issue is right, but they still don't completely understand what was done here and how which is amazing, because these are brilliant people that just
is that like one of the congressmen?
Well,
it's like one of the congressmen saying to Zuckerberg, "If I stand up from this chair and walk over to that chair, you know that I moved." Is that kind of that level?
It's close. It's close, except that's layman would know that. That's not what it does. But so I would watch it, because also I want to hear your take on the woman who was the high up executive who's turned kind of whistleblower but wasn't really whistleblower. I just want to see if you pick up on the things I picked up on, because she's heavily in this. And I just want to see if you pick up on it.
So wait, can we conclude that the reason Stuart wasn't on the show is that
he's binge watching now?
Well, no, he's changing as we speak, changing Fuel's business model and operating processes, and kind of doing a little pivot there. Is that the thing?
Yep.
All right, gentlemen.
All right, guys.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ed, if you want to know more about Flip2 and yourself, where's it that it goes there?
You can go to flip.to. You can find me on social media, Edward StOnge.
And Mr. Robert.
rockcheetah.com or at Robert K. Cole.
And for this show,
Mr. Gray.
I have the shortest URL of all, so it's really easy. But for this show and all previous 216, you can go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live and pick up the episode and show notes and links that we didn't get to and everything else. With that, gentlemen, thank you very much. Next week, 218. Till then, thank you, everyone.